Bush get butchered. Couple of teams still getting shuffled around quick into Elite Season 2. We have qualifiers going on. Groups are getting made that have big old asterisks on them. It is a wild time in Challengers, and Dandro and Enigma are here to help bring you all through it. That's right, it's this week in Challengers. Telluride Bush continue to be in turmoil, it seems, Enigma, as yet again, it's kind of a bittersweet moment for the Bush because Capsidal is getting the call up to go to the Vancouver Surge. You and I have been very high on Cap. I've said multiple times that like when there's all this talk around players from the Bush getting the call up to the CDL, we've kind of been waiting for it to be Capsidal. Maybe a little bit of a spoiler. I'm a little bit upset that it's the Vancouver Surge of all teams that's there.
Yeah.
It feels like, is this really a good home for Cap? But that's not what we're here to discuss. Let's talk about the Bush and how this might impact it. Because, well, who's coming down on in to replace Capsidal on the Bush? Well, it's none other than Abe. So it looks like a little bit of a trade going on through there with the Surge. You get Abe, you'll lose Cap. How are we feeling about this type of roster move?
With you on the Cap sentiment in the sense of, yeah, could he have gone maybe to something that feels like it has legs in terms of a CDL project? Maybe he goes in and gives them the legs, right? True. As you said, we've been big fans of his at the start of the season in particular. He was a one-man army. So slowed down a little bit around Elite 1, but has found his form again a little bit, looked good at the Open again. So it was a case of, all right, he gets his opportunity to go up. And I think he's going to be good. I think he'll do a better job than Abe did for that Vancouver Surge roster, just in sense of giving them maybe more stability and less swingy maps. It felt like Abe was very hot or very not. But yeah, I don't know, man. That Surge team just feels doomed from the very start. As for Abe, though, I think he's going to be gross in Challengers. This kid's got gunny, and that can suit you very well down here.
I wonder how much TJ had to do with this, right? Obviously, TJ being on the Surge, playing obviously on the Bush with Cap very early on, says, hey, maybe we need to make some type of SMG change. Why not try and pick up a player that A, has been in the CDL before, that you have chemistry with, and that if you're going to try and make a change, especially when it comes to the SMG role, right? There's not really that many SMGs, I feel like, on the market who you feel like you can maybe make that call up and it can actually have an impact. Capsidal could be that player that is able to make that happen. You know, we've kind of dogged on the Surge a lot, but like you mentioned, maybe this is the spark that team needs to finally kind of be able to look like a competitive roster. But let's talk about Challengers, because I'm right there with you, where I think Abe coming down on through made his name in Challengers, right? Was like one of those first names that was like, this guy should be in the league. He deserves a shot, deserves to be there. Has had some moderate success while there, but now coming down on it, and not just onto any Challengers team, but to a very formidable and high caliber Challengers team. I think that Abe is about to, you know, kind of shake it on up, and that yet again, I can't believe we said this last week and now we're doing the exact same thing, that if you are a Bush fan, you should be happy with this pickup, because when it comes to Challengers, other SMGs that could slot into this role are very few and far between. Abe, one of the better pickups you can make.
No, without a shadow of a doubt. There's a reason Zuma's under there, right, with the W. He was ex-Stallions, was Bush. Was Abe. Abe was on the Stallions roster last year, and I was just triple checking. It was indeed that run with Koi at EWC that really stands out. And I think it was one of those moments where you could see at times he was a bit nervy, but you could see at times this kid has a huge ceiling. I don't think that the Surge situation just set him up for any sort of success either, and I would like to see him come back down here now, figure his way back out, get all of his confidence going again, and start to find his new ticket to potentially something better up in the league.
I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I know one thing that people were saying also as well, just because I think it matters when you're talking about a team like the Telluride Bush, Abe's got a great personality to him, right? And we know the content engine that is behind the Bush. They're going to love this, right? You just lost Spart, unfortunately. That was a big sort of face of your team. Abe might be able to be that guy to kind of help, you know, keep the content, keep bringing that personality to the team, to the roster, and help be that energy that they're always looking for, especially because, like we're going to keep saying, you have a lot of opportunities to play, you know, obviously both online and on LAN, and having that very vocal sort of a player on your team who can help kind of rein you on in, keep that energy in check, make sure that everybody's keeping the spirits high when you're down in a series is going to be so important.
Yeah, and as much as I think that you're right on where Abe's going to go and this situation now is going to play out, and we've kind of back and forth a little bit on this, this feels like a weird moment for Bush. Like, we've obviously had these conversations about, you know, they have been great through a lot of the season. They've won some cups, lost some bits and pieces, looked great in the Elite at times, looked, you know, kind of off it at times. Then you arguably should have won the Open. So, I mean, it's a real interesting spot for Bush. But then we go through the whole thing of, are they trying to find sponsorship? What's happening there? A lot of changes suddenly happen. A lot of fan favorites exiting the door, new people come in. And it feels like it puts Bush themselves in a very interesting spot in terms of, what does your future look like? You invested in the ever-changing flow of challengers, or is this something that you didn't see coming? And is this something that you actually want?
That's a great question. I mean, it feels like a really boom or bust moment for the Bush, right? Where, like you mentioned, it's going to either come in. I feel like it's either going to be that high power that we've seen from this squad, or maybe we see them start to fall off. Continuing with some news here. Now, this one is it's tough, man, to talk about it, but obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in the Middle East right now, and at least as it pertains to challengers, unfortunately, it does look like we have had one roster be impacted by it, and that is going to be the Falcons Academy Green roster. Unfortunately, has to sub out Roxas, who is stuck in his home country. Terrible situation, you know, that he's finding himself in, but it's forcing the team to have to make some substitutions. So who do they pull on in? It's Alpha to play alongside QK, Aluka, and Standy. Obviously, this is not the situation that team wants to be in. We would love to see Roxas obviously playing and participating in this, because he's been a phenomenal player for this roster, has been really cool, done such a good job this year of really making his name known. So I feel for him. It's heartbreaking to be able to see that. But it's also on the other side, it is kind of nice to see Alpha maybe get a little bit of a second shot at redemption here with a very, very powerful squad that maybe you can kind of pull something together there and maybe put some respect on this Falcons Academy Green roster, because I feel like after last season, it's kind of a whirlwind roster mania for them. They land on this roster. Now you have this last second change, and everybody has question marks, I feel like, still right now about this roster.
I mean, there should be question marks about the roster. Unfortunately, Alpha going in for Roxas, that's not a like-for-like change by any means. That's a very different set of players. Also, Alpha is, first of all, incredibly talented, deserves to be moving over to the States and giving it an opportunity over there. It was great over here in Europe. But he is very young and inexperienced in many ways. And I look at this entire roster, and Roxas, arguably for me, was your IGL, your leader, your decision maker out there on the map. I now look at this team, and I think that probably falls to, like, Standy, because he's technically the veteran on the roster, but I don't know if he's ever been in that position before, right? Like, front-running Slayers, SMG-wise, are not typically that kind of player. It's just not a thing. So, yeah, this is tough. I think that this is harsh on pretty much everyone involved. Obviously glad that Alpha's getting an opportunity to run in the Elite, because he got kind of screwed over here, but it's really tough on Roxas, because he's been fucking phenomenal. And we have argued his point in case many a time this year, and hopefully this doesn't destabilize his year. He's got a lot of talent, so should be fine, but you never know with moments like this. You kind of step away for maybe a minute and you're not playing that top end of competition. It could just dull how sharp you are just enough to really see you kind of, you know, how do you pick things back up when you return?
Yeah, it's tough, right? And the other thing I'm looking at too, like, CC and Dill does such a great job of, like, also showcasing these 4 flags here in this tweet, right? It's like, we got a French, a German, a Saudi, and American who are all teaming together. Hopefully everybody's English is on point, because it's going to be tough, right? When it comes to a couple of those, like, it's just the nature of this situation, right? When it comes to comms and communication, I know there's a lot of talk around that, you know, sort of idea lately. It feels like in Call of Duty, right? Comms versus actual communication as a team. So I will say, though, you know, just seeing some of these, the good news is that for a lot of these players, they have been on those multicultural rosters that have been there, right? They've played with people from different backgrounds. Hopefully that's not too much of a problem. For me, I think I look at this and actually, like, this Twitter account right here, NYC9 Daily, a fan account, I think actually portrays my sentiments exactly, which is that this team has the ability to outslay everybody. This is arguably 4 superstars kind of coming together, right? Now, there's been some questions around the performance of some of these players, but all of them have had some insane PR at some point throughout this Challenger season. And I think if they can gel quickly and figure out a system, they become very, very scary in this sort of pool in North America, because these are at the very least 4 shooters. And I wonder, Enigma, can they lean into that while they're kind of in this honeymoon period and creating their fundamentals, where you could just win series by just absolutely putting up stat lines over some of these other maybe weaker rosters?
It's some of the weaker ones for sure. I think that there's going to be moments where this team look ridiculous and blow out some other squads because of that raw slaying ability. Your better teams, though, are going to see their way through that. Yeah. They're going to be able to, first of all, go punch for punch with you, but also then they're just going to out-rotate you. And I can see there being several moments where this team's like up 30 kill death-wise and yet still lose a hard point. Yep. Obviously hoping I'm wrong because these gentlemen have been put into a very difficult situation. And you just root for that underdog, right? You root for the team with their backs put against the wall for a situation entirely out of their control. So, yeah, I mean, look, hopefully they figure it out. It's tough as well because we're going, into Elite tomorrow? So, it's all right, gentlemen. Figure it out on the fly. But look, if Alpha wanted to make his case in point, if he comes out and looks good in this Elite, there'll be a bunch of suitors knocking on his door for the next one.
The Season 2 qualifier also happened this weekend, and it's a little bit different because obviously with Season 1, it was kind of, we were looking for those top 12 teams to be able to make it on in and get to playoffs. But with Season 2, a lot of those teams get to keep their spots from Season 1 when they get to come on over. But we covered it last week. Shameless self-plug. Go watch that if you want the full breakdown on it of what is happening here in Season 2, because we had a couple of rosters who, basically blow it up. They disband, so they're not able to keep those spots coming into Season 2, which means now, instead of the normal 4, there's now a total of 7 available spots. So that tournament happened this weekend, Enigma, and we can see the teams on our screen here at the top. These 7 squads that have the Q next to them are the ones that did make it through. Everybody down below, unfortunately, did not. So let's kind of kickstart it off here at the top. We'll focus on the teams that qualify, and then we'll talk about the teams that didn't qualify. Any surprises out of you of the squads that did make it through, that were able to kind of slay their way through, of course, through that bracket and be part of that top 7?
I think I'm going to point at fries in the bag, right? Yeah. I think that, look, it's a good team without a shadow of a doubt. Cruz has been around for forever, but this guy works full-time as a nurse. And so it's like, okay, when you're stepping into the Elite, I'm expecting it to be people where this is what they're throwing all of their time at. So fair play to Cruz. Gunless, obviously ex-pro, in and out of kind of various situations around the Elite. Gunsy Nate's stock has fallen dramatically this year. Gunsy, is this his first time up there this year? I think he was part of the team that just missed out because of the whole Bush situation last time around. So it's a good team without a shadow of a doubt. But if you'd have asked me to kind of line this up and talk about who's going to get through, I wouldn't have put them in the list.
Ooh, okay. And the other kind of also with that, one of the only other teams that isn't sort of represented by an org is, I'm not even going to attempt to say their name, but the roster of Manny, Dax, Vic, and Rex as well.
How do we even come up with that? Just headbutt the keyboard?
Somebody's rolling their face across the keyboard, right? And they drop maybe they dropped their controller on the keyboard while they were entering the name on Faceit or something. I don't know. But all I do know is that they come out frying, and it's not even through that loser's bracket side, right? Because you have Face, Falcons, Stallions, Black, Fries in the bag. They actually basically were the top 3 teams to that losers bracket. So more surprising to me is like, if you told me that team made it through that losers, okay, makes a little bit more sense, right? Going from 4 to 7, more opportunity for maybe some of these teams that are underrated, right? To not be able to make it their way on through. But the fact they make it through the winner side is really, really impressive to me. I also love, we had some questions on sort of these 3 rosters that we're going to have to go back through the qualifiers. Could they make it back on in? They do. Falcons Academy, White Bear, that new roster of Arcitys, Two Real, Pollux, and Fellow, they make it through. Brooklyn make it through again. Brack, Asim, Real, and Cammy. And then obviously P7 Notorious of Afro Beans, Diamond Con, and Eric Boom. Able to do it, no problem. I'm glad that they were able to, because I think those are really fun rosters, and I'm excited to see them here in Elite Season 2. Also, notably, Stallions Black make it on through yet again on the loser side, and then the Face Falcons roster, that new sort of collaboration effort between the Falcons and, of course, Zuma there of Gentle, Nox, Sudi, and King of Body.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, like, for me, it's just... the more I actually start to look at this lower bracket, High Treason just get really unlucky. They end up in that matchup where it's like, okay, you've reached that 3rd round of lowers, but you don't go through, which does happen if you scroll further down. Both Face Falcons and Stallions Black go through. I'm not 100% sure how that was decided, but basically they get to the same point in the tournament, and that's the way it works out. High Treason would have been the squad I would have expected to get through. But actually, the more I look at this bracket, the more I think this Fries in the Bag team could be pretty fucking gross. Like, you've got... They lose 3-2. They beat Stallions Black 3-1, losing a game 5 to Notorious,
which is insane.
Then beat out this Torn roster, then beat out High Treason for the qual. So actually, this team, am I expecting to get to playoffs still? No, but they could actually be a little bit of a force out there if they're taking Notorious to a game 5. Remember, that's Afro Beans, Diamond Con, and Eric Boom. then God knows what their ceiling actually is.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great call out to be able to have. Yeah, just to kind of let people know, because obviously we had 7. You can see here down at the bottom, this high treason versus face Falcons was because it was the loser of these 2 games. So it was kind of a like a third place scenario where these were the winner of these 2 qualified, and that meant the loser of these 2 had to battle it out, and that was face Falcons winning 3-1 over high treason in order to get there. So
yeah, I will try and defend myself a little bit. I was away with family over the weekend, and I did see that high treason and face had played from the people who tweeted afterwards saying that they'd gotten through. But I was kind of scrolling through this, like, was I just high at the time? Like, what was going on here? But no, yeah, you're right. That's how it plays out, and I'm glad that that's the way it plays out. Because that meant you did have a fair opportunity. You just didn't do enough. High treason and face Falcons did it.
Yeah, it's tough to see. I think I really liked this high treason roster. Obviously, coming in with Flames instead of Dimensions, who gets picked up by the Huntsman. Okay, cool. Yeah. I think this is a team that I really would have loved to see in there. A little bit surprised they don't make it on through. There's some stuff going on with Chris Radial's roster and Ikor as right. There's some drama there. Please go look at it on the timeline. We don't have the time to cover it here. But also seeing teams like Cabal and Stallions also down there as well. A little bit of a heartbreaking to see, but on a more positive note, I think the teams that did make it through are going to make this season 2 very, very competitive. Now, we do have groups for now for season 2 going on in. Now, there's a big asterisk because of everything we just talked about, right? Players getting swapped in and out is going to change these groups. It changes the pro points, changes some of the seeding that's going on. Faceit is actively figuring this out right now, but we figured it was better for us to kind of do at least some prediction, even if these groups do change, versus wait for, next week. These matches are going to start tomorrow, so we're going to figure these out tomorrow. So at least we'll do a little bit, and we'll kind of come back next week. We'll course correct, so make sure you're subscribed there so you can hear all of our thoughts then. But let's talk about this Group A first, Enigma, for the North American side. We have Telluride Bush, Omit Brooklyn, Falcons Green, For Fun Esports, Pink, Team Rex, and Fries in the bag, like we just mentioned. We did this for season 1, where we predicted the 4 teams that we thought was going to make it out of the group and into the playoff bracket. So I'm going to kick it over to you first. What 4 squads do you see making it out of this group?
Definitely Bush, definitely Brooklyn, definitely, let me just triple check that it's the roster I'm thinking of. Okay, so no. Let me just triple check that this is the team that I'm thinking of here. Falcons Green is going to be the QK Standia Luca Alpha roster, correct? Okay, yeah. So for me then, I've just said that I don't expect Fries in the bag to get through. But actually, looking at this group, I think Bush and Brooklyn walk it. For Fun Pink is Darkside, KB, Phantoms, and Rupert. I don't know if God, I feel like actually Fries in the bag could do it, and then it's a toss up between the other 3.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Bush, Brooklyn, Fries in the bag, Falcons Green.
Ooh.
Again, pretty much against what I said in the last segment, but that's okay.
I mean, that's kind of the fun of this, right? Because I'm not going to lie to you. I actually am going to go with that exact same 4. I know it's maybe lame. Like, normally we like to try and have a discussion. But looking at it mainly from 2 angles. One, there's the analytical angle, which I do think that's a good team. And I think comparing them to those other 2 rosters, it does feel like, even though, yes, they may not have the necessary time underneath themselves to be able to figure it on out, I do feel like if I feel better about that team winning a map, winning a series over those other 2. And that's what it feels like to me. They're probably going to lose against those other teams. They probably lose to Bush, Brooklyn, and Fries in the bag, right? But I see them winning those other games. Then it also then comes down to maybe some head-to-head action, some other stuff like that, right? Of if maybe those other teams are able to take a game off some of the other ones. But I'm right there with you. I think that's how I feel. But if we learn anything from season 1 is that we're going to be so wrong. Some team's going to come out frying, and it's going to be absolutely crazy.
Yeah, we did the pick'ems, right? And while we were both doing okay compared to everybody else, it was a case of everybody's struggling here because these teams just show up on the day as and how they feel. I will say for that Group A, For Fun Pink, they're the team that I consider as like that 5th and like maybe kind of situation.
Yep.
I don't have much love for Team Rex right now. Would I like to be proven wrong? Absolutely. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. But as I said last season, we were called out by several squads that we said wouldn't make it, and certainly went on to do so.
Hey, Well, let's talk about Group B as well. Yet again, these could change, but we also have the OG for fun roster, Team Arcitys. Listen to Team Arcitys here because I actually heard some stuff about they might have gotten dropped by Falcons, so they might not actually be Falcons white. So now they're Team Arcitys maybe. I don't know. We're going to wait for some more information on that. We'll probably learn that out this week. We also have Huntsman, P7 Notorious, Stallions Black, FaZe, Falcons. I think for me, if I'm going to kickstart this one, I got to go with at least the Huntsman and P7 Notorious immediately off the top. I feel like they definitely are going to be doing a good job to get their way on through. Team Arcitys, I don't care who you're playing underneath. Those are 4 really gross players that you're going to be able to have. And then I feel like I got to go for fun as my 4th. I just feel like this FaZe, Falcons, and Stallions Black roster, I like them. It feels like they have some solid plans to them, but just I haven't seen enough from them to be able to feel confident that they're going to be able to win enough games against some heavy hitter teams like this that are in their group in order to make it to playoffs.
I really hate the sentence that's about to come out next, but I think I actually just agree with you.
Wow.
And that's because I think that Stallions Black and FaZe Falcons are really hoping, because again, we put an asterisk here.
Yeah.
These may be the groups. This came out as was definitely the groups. This was how it was going to happen. And it turns out there may have been some miscalculations and whatnot. So FaZe are trying to figure that all out. However, if you are Stallions Black or FaZe Falcons fans right now, or even players, you're probably crossing your fingers that they get changed, because I think those top 4 are gross. So just to remind everyone, for fun, this is the Yuli, Geo, Mac, Vivid roster. Yeah. Disgusting. They're making it through. Team Arcitys, X-Falcons White. Arcitys 2 Real, Paul X, and Fellow. Very, very strong team. Fellow always finds his way through groups. He's no issues there. Huntsman are the Huntsman plus Dimensions. This is a great team. And then Notorious is Afro, Beans, Diamond, Con, and Eric Boom. I don't think there's a better 4 to really... Yeah. I like, if we were to try and power rank everything right now, Bush and Brooklyn go in there for me, but these 4 definitely fill out your top 6, and that's tough.
I think the number one thing, even just looking at these 2 rosters, you know that has me most excited for is the Pro-Am that's coming up. Because just listening to us talking about some of these teams, dude, it's kind of crazy that we're sitting here and be like, these are challengers rosters. And it's like that For Fun roster, the Notorious roster, even Huntsman and Team Arcitys, it's like, dog, I'm 90% certain we could put those rosters against any of the bottom 4 CDL teams, and those are going to be banger series that are going on. I don't think it's going to be a smashing that's there. And so what that means for us here in Challengers is that we're going to be feasting. All these teams have to play each other. Reminder, top 4 from each group make it into the playoff bracket that's there. So that bracket's going to be absolutely crazy to watch as well. Really, really excited. We're going to come back to this maybe once the groups change, maybe because obviously we'll get our first look tomorrow at them, right? We'll have the last few matches. We can kind of talk about it, who we maybe think is making it on to playoffs. We'll cover some of the different scenarios that go on of who has to qualify, all those things like that. But the way these groups stand, at least right now, all I know is that there is no better group, and both of these groups are absolutely terrifying to look at. So obviously a lot of movement here, gearing up, heading into the group stage of Season 2. Qualifiers, roster changes, galore that are there. As usual, goes on with Call of Duty. But all I know is that Season 2, I think, is somehow going to deliver even more hype than Season 1.
Without a shadow of a doubt. If anything, I'm hoping to get some opportunities to maybe watch party it, do some stuff with it, tune in with yourself, my friend, because it's going to be some incredible games. Like, we've just tried to cover the teams that are going to be in the groups, and even then I'm like, how the hell do you pick victors here? How do you pick teams that get through? You said it yourself, there are plenty of teams here that could definitely be in the league in Pro-Am time. They will run up against some of those squads up there in the league and do great. So yeah, going to be some bangers, and that's before we even get to playoffs, because of course we'll get to cover that in next week's episode, and God knows what the conversations are at that point.
It's a lot. Let us know at home. What do you think about that new Bush roster? Who do you think is making it out of groups? And maybe what team do you think is going to surprise everybody? That's been This Week in Challengers. We'll catch you next week when we get all up to date with Season 2 as it kicks off.